Hey there, Stampers. Welcome back to the treasure chest. All right, in this memory keeping video, I've got two 3x4 photos that I'm going to be documenting. And I've kind of pulled out some scraps from my DSP. So I've pulled out this copper clay pattern with the blue on the back. I'm going to do some tearing, so I'll probably use some of the backside as well. I had this scrap of the same paper, and then these two are cut from the cut apart sheet. And I pulled them out just because they're kind of similar colors, so I might try to incorporate them. I've got those two colors of ink, so the boho blue and copper clay. I have the dies. I actually didn't pull out the stamp set. I may end up using it though. I've got the Cheerful Daisy dies. I've also got the Alphabet a la Mode dies. I'm going to do the packaging technique across the middle. So I've got a piece of plastic and my spritzer. And then I also pulled out this, which is an Elles Studio title builder stamp set. This is what it looks like because I want to use the word picture. So my title is going to be Picture Perfect. This is there's a whole series of title builder stamps. And I think I have 3 or 4 of them. I think there's more that have come out. But they're great for building titles. There's just a whole bunch of different words. And then there's these printouts that you can use with different combinations. So I love the word picture. So I'm going to use that. I also have my little dish with leftover bits and pieces. And I also cut some white, 2 of these and then 3 of these, because I think I'm going to kind of tuck them in as embellishments. I'm not sure I'm going to use too many of these because there's not too many in the colors that I'm using. There's this one, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and speed this up and we'll get started. All right, so we're going to start with the packaging technique. I'm going to take some boho blue ink and just smush it onto my package, spritz it until the water starts to pool, and then kind of add it to my layout kind of across the middle. I'm going to tap off the excess with a paper towel and then just bring in and add a few more spots that were left on the bag. I'll wipe the bag, and I just reuse this bag over and over and over. Then I'm going to set that piece aside and work on the torn paper that's going to go across the strip or across the center. So I'm tearing, this is a 5 by 12 inch piece that I'm starting with. I'm tearing both sides, and I'm trying to make sure it's not even. I want it to be thinner on one end. And then I'm going to reuse all those pieces, but I want the torn edge, well, most of those pieces. I want the torn edge always showing. So I needed to tear that straight edge off of that little piece. And I know it's not going to go all the way across, but I love the way it looks in the end. And this is such a great way to use up scraps. All right, so we've got just a little piece there, and I'm just going to trim off, it's hanging off the edge there. And then I'm going to use that longer piece. I'm going to flip it over. And now you may have noticed that the daisies are sideways on the back side. You can see here that the daisies are sideways, which means that the pieces that I've torn off are also sideways. But that doesn't matter. You're only going to see a small little bit of that daisy paper peeking out, so it doesn't matter what direction they're going in. Nobody's going to notice. So here I took that one cut apart, and I'm going to add that in here. And I'm trying to avoid any straight edges. There is a little bit of one there, but I know it's going to get covered over. And then I realized, I want a little bit of blue in between those two patterns. So I had this little piece here. I'm going to take this, add it on, and then add on that copper daisy patterned one. Love that. Most of that's going to get covered over, but there will be a little bit peeking out. All right, so now I'm going to take this leftover piece, tear it again, and I'm going to add it at the bottom. And add an angle because, like I said, I don't want any of those straight edges showing, and I know that I'm not going to have anything covering up that straight edge at the bottom, whereas at the top that straight edge will be covered with the photos. I'll just trim off the excess, Love the little peak of daisies. This layout actually ends up looking almost looking and feeling a bit winterish, which is odd with daisies. Here I'm tearing off that straight edge. I think that's another piece from that cut apart. And then I remembered I had this blue piece, so I wanted a little bit more blue in here, so I'm just tearing a little piece off and adding that in the bottom. This layout just has so much texture because of all these torn edges. I love the white core showing. Okay, and then I thought of adding a little bit more blue up at the top, but I wasn't 100% sure if my photos were going to cover it or not, so I thought I'd wait. My cardstock is still a bit damp, so I'm just going to grab my heat tool, give it a quick zap, dry it a little bit more before I add all my torn paper to it. All right, so now we'll add some adhesive to the back, add this to the layout. So you can see that we've covered up most of that paper packaging technique, but there is still a little bit peeking out from behind. So now I'm going to grab that blue. This is also another one of those cut aparts. And I'm going to tuck it in here so there's just a tiny bit more blue showing on that one side. And this is a fun technique, and I know it's not for everyone. Some people don't like to tear. Sarah, I'm talking about you. And it's just so random. But I encourage you to give it a try and just don't overthink it because it's going to look great in the end. So here I realized most of this die was going to be covered over, so I kind of cut it in half so I could use it in 2 different spots. So I only end up using one of the 2 that I cut. And then I've got one of these little leaves. I'm going to end up using all 3 of these. I'm going to grab the word picture, kind of position it there and grab my dies, pull out the letters to spell perfect. And then I try to decide what color I'm going to cut the letters out of. I initially thought maybe some mossy meadow because there's green trees in the background, but I tried a piece of mossy meadow and I did not like the introduction of a new color, so I went with boho blue. So I'm just grabbing some adhesive sheets and I'm going to stick those to the back and then head on over to my die cutting machine, cut out the letters. Just going to grab a scrap to make it a little bit longer. Okay, so I've got my letters cut. Now I'm going to stamp the word picture. I'm going to stamp it on some white cardstock with copper clay ink. And I'm going to fussy cut around it. Now, if you don't have this title builder, which many of you probably don't, you can use any alphabet set to stamp your title, or even die cut set. All right, we're going to adhere our photos. I'm just going to use them flat. I'm going to put them at a slight angle. I like to do my photos at an angle when it's a little bit more of a casual layout. And I try not to put them too much at an angle. I don't want them too much at an angle, so I feel like I have to turn my head to get a good look at the photos. I just like them just at a really slight angle. All right, so now I'm going to kind of figure out the positioning of my letters. Initially, I thought that I would line up the T with the edge of the photo. I don't mind it, but I wanted to fussy cut the word picture to see where I wanted to fit the word picture before I committed to sticking my letters down, because the word perfect kind of sticks out a bit further to the left than I would like. So I'm just kind of fussy cutting this, and this piece is going to end up getting popped up using dimensionals. Almost done here. So I like the look of that, but I wanted my letters over a little bit. So I thought maybe I could overlap a couple of the letters with the photo. And I like that much more. It just brings in that word picture a little bit more, just because the word picture pops. It stands out a little bit more just because it's on a white background. So I start with my C first and adhere that because I really want the C to line up with the edge of the photo. And then I position the other letters around that. So if there's any letter that you want to be in a particular position, then I suggest starting with that letter first. So I thought of doing this, and I don't mind that, but I prefer this. So, and I'm going to tuck a leaf in there, and I'm going to grab some of our in color jute. So I grabbed the boho blue just for a little bit of added texture. And I'm going to do a little boho blue jute bow there. All right, so we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. And then I think we're going to stick down all of our little embellishments. I don't think we've done that now yet. I think they're all just sitting there. So this guy's going to go right on top there. I love how the P kind of hangs down. All right, so we'll add some adhesive and just kind of tuck in these little florals. I think it's the white and blue that just kind of makes this feel like a wintry layout. I think this color combination, copper clay and boho blue, will make a great layout with snowflakes in the winter time. Such a pretty color combination. All right, we'll add our baker's twine bow, and then you can see I believe I start tapping my fingers because I'm trying to think, do I want to add anything else? Am I happy with the way it is? And so I'm taking a look, and I feel like it needs just a little something else. And I see that little blue scrap off to the edge. So I went and I cut it because both ends were torn. So I went and I cut it so that I'd have a straight edge. And I'm going to distress the edges of my layout and actually take a little piece right about here, and I'm going to tear it. And then I'm going to put that little piece of boho blue DSP in behind just to bring in a little bit of color down at the bottom. And then I'll finish distressing the edges all the way around. And that's exactly what it needed. I love it. So if this layout inspires you to create something similar, make sure that you head on over to the Treasure Chest Facebook group and share your layout with us. All right, thanks so much for watching. Here is a little bit of a closer look at the layout.